Okay, I'm going to start the lecture. It's about the ovaries. Okay, all of you are aware these are the female gonads which are involved in the formation of female gametes, that is ova. So the definition of the ovaries is these are female gametes involved in the formation of female gamete, that is ova. Now, where these ovaries are situated, that is the situation. These are situated in the ovarian fossa. This ovarian fossa, as all of you are knowing, that ovary, it lies in the pelvic region. So in this diagram, you can see the pelvic part and this is the sacrum part. Okay, so here, this is the area in the lateral wall of pelvis is the ovarian fossa. All of you have seen this black shadow, ovarian fossa. Now here, note here, this is the artery, that is the iliac artery. It is dividing into external iliac artery and internal iliac artery. Can you see? Please keep responding so I can proceed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you. So from the internal iliac artery, there is one artery, that is the umbilical artery. Umbilical artery is present in the placenta. So after its function get over, it gets obliterated. That's why it is not pattern. In next color diagram, I will show you again. So this is the umbilical artery. That's why it is grayish in color. And posteriorly, this is the ureter. So remember here, this is the common ilia which is dividing into external ilia and internal ilia. Internal iliac is giving umbilical artery which gets obliterated and posteriorly there is the ureter. So this is the ovarian fossa present in the lateral pelvic wall. Now we will see the where exactly this ovarian fossa is. Now, this is the iliac artery dividing into external iliac and internal iliac artery. And similarly, these are the iliac veins, external iliac, and here is the internal iliac. So, from the internal iliac, obliterated umbilical artery is there, which is not shown in this diagram, but this is the ovary. Can you see this gray and white structure? This is
Yes.
the ovary and this is the ureter. So imagining the previous diagram, so anteriorly there is a obliterated umbilical artery which is not shown over here, and posteriorly there is the ureter. Okay, so obliterated umbilical artery, so that means in living condition to localize where the exactly ovaries are. That means in example in the operations etc. They will go for the ovarian fossa. So the boundaries of this ovarian fossa, above there is external iliac artery, posteriorly there is the ureter, and there is internal iliac artery. Okay, now these are the upper boundary and posterior boundary of the ovarian fossa in living condition. And inferiorly, so this is the obturator artery, vein and nerve. Obturator, nerve, artery and vein. Actually red color is not shown in this display, but it is there. These are obturator vessels inferiorly. So anteriorly there is external iliac artery, posteriorly ureter, internal iliac artery, inferiorly there are obturator vessels and nerves. Okay, the anterior, superior, posterior, inferior. Now in this diagram, can you see the lower diagram?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the ovary over here and this is the ovary on the right side. So it is present in the ovarian fossa, that is in the lateral pelvic wall. So this is the fallopian tube and this is the ovary. Okay, so in the anterior, posterior side. So here below the fallopian tube there is a broad ligament. Is it there? Broad ligament of uterus. Do you know?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So anteriorly the ovarian fossa is bounded by broad ligament of uterus. So this is superiorly there is external iliac artery and vein. Posteriorly there is ureter and internal iliac artery. Inferiorly there is obturator vessels and nerves, and anteriorly there is a broad ligament. So four boundaries. Are these clear?
Yes.
Okay, these boundaries are important in surgical point of view. So position, situation is different, position is different. In the ovarian fossa, how the ovaries are located, that is the position. Now, there are two concepts, nulliparous and multiparous. Nulliparous, that means a woman who has not given birth to any child, that is nulliparous. And multiparous is the woman who has given birth to a child, that is multiparous. Okay, so in the ovarian fossa, a woman who has not given birth, then in that case, the ovaries are almost vertically placed. So it is having an upper pole and a lower pole. But in case of multiparous woman, it lies horizontally. So the upper pole, it becomes lateral pole, and lower pole, it becomes medial pole. Okay, so or another way, this end is also called tubal pole because the fimbriae of fallopian tube are attached over them. So it is tubal pole and this one is uterine pole because this pole is attached to the uterus. ठीक है, nulliparous concept, multiparous concept. Now in nulliparous, upper pole or tubal pole and lower pole or uterine pole. In multiparous, lateral pole or tubal pole, medial pole or uterine pole. Now external features. This is a color diagram actually, but the colors are not seen distinctly. So in external features, first we will see for the color, which is not shown over here, that before puberty and after puberty. All of you are knowing before puberty, ovum is not released from ovary. After puberty, ovum is released from ovary. So before puberty, the ovaries are smooth one, whereas after puberty, the ovaries, the surface it gets uneven. It's obvious, na? Here is the smooth and here is uneven. Color, here is the pink and here it turns to the gray. Now external features, we have seen about the poles, that is the upper pole or tubal pole, lower pole or uterine pole, and here is the tubal pole and here is the uterine pole. Borders. Now see in this specimen over here, this is the uterine tube and this is the broad ligament of uterus and these are the ovaries. Okay, so to this broad ligament, the ovaries are attached from posterior side. Now in the same diagram, it is a section across. So here, this is the broad ligament of the uterus. On this side, here is the uterus. Sorry, and this is the uterine tube and broad ligament of uterus in this plane. And posteriorly, the ovaries are attached to it. So it is having a anterior border and a posterior border. Okay, two poles, tubal pole, uterine pole, border, anterior border, posterior border, and surfaces, medial surface, lateral surface. Here is the medial surface and lateral surface. So in external features, there are two poles, tubal pole, uterine pole, two borders, anterior border, posterior border, and two surfaces, medial surface and lateral surface. Now, peritoneal relation. As it is a viscera, so we need to know what are the surrounding structures related to the ovary. First of all, peritoneal relations. Now, this is the broad ligament. In previous diagram, okay, this is the uterine tube, the peritoneum. Are you aware about the peritoneum? Hello, do you know
Yes, ma'am.
peritoneum? Okay, so this peritoneum, it is folded around the uterine tube and it hangs down. And now we are looking for the cut section at this level. So it is having an anterior layer and a posterior layer of the peritoneum, which are hanging above from the uterine tube. Now posteriorly, it is enclosing ovary. So the peritoneal relation description is in this way. It is surrounded all around by the peritoneum except at anterior border, where two layers of the peritoneum are reflected on posterior aspect of broad ligament. That means ovaries are attached to the posterior aspect of broad ligament by a fold of peritoneum that is called mesoovarium. So this fold having two layers is the mesoovarium. Now same mesoovarium, it acts as a hilum. Hilum is a structure which gives channel pathway for the entry and exit of the structure. So this through the mesothelium, the arteries, veins, nerves, they pass through this fold to reach up to the ovary. So what you need to remember over here, covered all around by peritoneum except at anterior border where it is attached by means of mesothelium, which acts as a hilum for entry and exit of the structures. Now next concept is suspensory ligament of ovary. Now this is a broad ligament. Okay, this is uterine tube. These are fimbri of the uterine tube, and this is the ovary. Now this broad ligament in the lateral part, means over here, it is attached to the tubal pole of the ovary and as well as to the fimbri of the uterine tube, and laterally it is extending up to the external iliac vessels. So this much fold of broad ligament is called suspensory ligament of ovary. So it is suspending the ovary. That's a suspensory ligament of ovary, and it is a part of broad ligament. And as well as you can see over here, through this fold, the vessels are passing. That these are the ovarian vessels, which are emerging from external ilia and entering through the suspensory ligament to reach up to the ovary. Is this concept clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Moving further, visceral relations. Now we are seeing upper pole or tubal pole. In this diagram, this is the upper pole and this is the uterine pole. So we will look for the which are the structures related to the upper pole. So these are the first one is fimbri of uterine tube and suspensory ligament of the ovary. These two structures are attached to the tubal pole. Now here, see here, this is the ovary. This is the uterine tube, and this one is the suspensory ligament extending up to the external iliac vessels. Okay. Now, so visceral relation of the upper or tubal pole, uterine tube, and the suspensory ligament. Now, lower pole or uterine pole. This is the lower pole or uterine pole. Here you can see there is one more ligament which is attached to this one, and this is a ovarian ligament.
Orion.
Ovarian ligament. which is attached to the lower pole and extending up to the lateral angle of uterus. Now, at the lateral angle of uterus, there are two structures, that is the uterine tube and ovarian ligament. Now, relation over here is it is attached posterior-inferior. As it is a posterior view of the uterus, we are looking from posterior side towards the ovary. So, it is posterior-inferior to the attachment of uterine tube. This is the attachment of ovarian ligament. This is attachment. Now, the lower pole, it is related with the pelvic floor. These are the muscles of the pelvic floor, or also called as pelvic diaphragm, which is supporting the pelvic structure from downside. So, inferiorly, it is related with the pelvic floor. Anterior border, as we have seen, it gives attachment to the mesothelium, which acts as a hilum, which acts as a channel for the ovarian vessels and the nerves. This is the anterior border. Now over here, this is the ovarian fossa we have seen. Now anteriorly, it is related with the obliterated umbilical artery. This is also anterior relation. Okay. Can you have imagination that it is here, it is attached and as well as it is related with the obliterated umbilical artery. The posterior border is over here. It is rounded or convex, covered by means of a peritoneum,
Peritoneum.
and posteriorly it is related with the ureter. Anteriorly related with the obliterated umbilical artery, posteriorly related with the ureter. Medial surface. Now, this is the medial surface and this is the lateral surface. Medial surface. Okay, moving further. Before proceeding further, now look here, upper pole, medial surface, anterior border, all these are related with the uterine. Now here is also part of uterine tube will be related because it is highly coiled structure. So it will be related with the upper pole and medial surface and anterior border. It will not be related with the lateral wall because it is attached to the lateral pelvic wall. And posterior border, it is also not related. Anterior, medial surface and anterior border. It's like confusing, but we will look for the medial surface. Now this is the medial surface. Here, there is one fossa, that is the ovarian bursa. It is present between uterine tube and the ovary. There is some depression over the peritoneum, that is called ovarian bursa. Lateral surface. So this is the lateral surface related with the lateral pelvic wall. In this diagram, lateral surface related with the ovarian fossa, that is the lateral pelvic wall. And below this surface means over here. Can you see? Can you see a cursor? This is the
Yes.
lateral pelvic wall. Here the peritoneum is lining the lateral pelvic wall, and between the peritoneum and the muscle there are ovarian vessels and the nerves. So lateral relations are ovarian fossa, which is lined by means of a peritoneum and separating the ovary from obturator vessels and nerves. Arterial supply. Now this is the suspensory ligament, and we have seen from externalia ovarian artery. Not from externalia, it is from the aorta. So this is the artery, ovarian artery, which is entering through the suspensory ligament. Now, while it is passing, it gives branches, and through the hilum, only the branches of ovarian artery enter through through the hilum, whereas rest of the artery it continues medially and it anastomoses with the uterine artery. So, arterial supply is ovarian artery, which is arising from the aorta, and the branches of ovarian artery enters through the hilum and will supply the ovary, and whereas rest of the artery continues medially to anastomose with the uterine artery. Along with the ovarian artery, it also receives the blood supply from uterine artery. That is the branches of uterine artery, also entering through the hilum. So two blood supply, major from ovarian artery and small blood supply from uterine artery. Venous drainage. Now again you can see this is the anterior border. The veins are emerging out of the anterior border over here. Now they will form a plexus around the artery, then will run outward, that means through the suspensory ligament, and at pelvic brim it forms a single vein. On this side, a single vein is formed which is draining on left side into left renal vein, whereas on right side it is draining directly into the inferior vena cava. This is the difference. That is left side draining into left renal vein, right side it drains into inferior vena cava. Now lymphatic drainage. The lymphatics, this is the ovary. The lymphatics again emerge out through the hilum. They will join with the lymphatics from the fundus and uterine vein. All these lymphatics, they run again through the suspensory ligament and will reach up to the pre and para-aortic group of lymph nodes. The arterial supply to arteries, ovarian, uterine. Venous drainage, after forming a plexus, that is pampiniform plexus, on left side drain into the left renal vein, on right side drain into the inferior vena cava, and lymphatic drainage, it is draining into pre and para-aortic group of lymph nodes. Now nerve supply, again these are the ovaries. So nerve supply, it is having sympathetic and parasympathetic. Actually, in the nerve supply is through the ovarian plexus. This is the ovarian plexus, and these nerve fibers, they are coming from renal plexus, aortic plexus, and hypogastric plexus. So from these plexus nerve fibers, they will pass along with the arteries or the vein, and they will form ovarian plexus which supply the ovary. Now here two types of fibers are there, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic, they are from T10 and T11, which carries the pain sensation, as well as these are constricting to the vessels, whereas parasympathetic from S2, S3, S4. That is these are the vasodilator. Parasympathetic vasodilator. Pain sensation by sympathetic nerves. Structure of ovary. You know the histological structure of the ovary. Now from outside inward, it is lined by means of epithelium, that is cuboidal epithelium. What it is called? Do you know? Cuboidal epithelium on outside. It is the lining epithelium of peritoneum. Now below the cuboidal epithelium, there is a thin layer of connective tissue. Beneath it, thin layer of connective tissue is there, that is tunica albuginea. Alba means white, and it is a loose connective tissue, that's why tunica albuginea. Beneath the tunica albuginea, there are follicles, and each follicle is having ovum inside. So there are different stages of follicles, and medulla is inside, cortex medulla. Lining epithelium, simple cuboidal epithelium, then tunica albuginea, then ovarian follicles at different stages, and medulla, which is having blood vessels. Now lastly, applied anatomy. Pass through the topic rapidly. First we have seen definition, that is it is the female gonad. I will go back to the slide. Okay, definition, these are female gonads forming female gametes. Next, it is located in the ovarian fossa. Anatomically, it is shown like this, that anteriorly bounded by obliterated umbilical and posteriorly by the ureter. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now in living condition, the ovarian fossa boundaries are the above extrailiac vessels and the artery and the vein, posteriorly ureter internal ilia, inferiorly obturator vessels and the nerves, and anteriorly, which is shown in this diagram, that is the broad ligament. Wait a second. Now, in this ovarian fossa, in nulliparous, these are vertically placed, in multiparous, horizontally placed. In external features, in before puberty, the surface is smooth, after puberty uneven, and pink color turns to grey. And poles, these are the external feature, upper pole, lower pole, tubal and uterine pole, etc. Border, anterior border, posterior border, surfaces, medial surface, lateral surface. Peritoneal relation, there you need to remember all around peritoneum, mesoreum, hilum and channel. Then suspensory ligament, which is a part of broad ligament, which suspend it from extrailiac vessels and attached to the tuber fimbriae and the upper pole or tubal pole. Then visceral relations, upper pole is related with the fimbriae and suspensory ligament and as well as to the uterine tube. Now lower pole gives attachment to the ovarian ligament, which is attached posterior inferior to the uterine tube, and it is related with the pelvic diaphragm. Anterior border again mesoreum, hilum and obliterated umbilical artery. Posterior border related with the ureter. Medial surface, there is the ovarian bursa is there. It is the part of peritoneum. And lateral surface, which is related with the lateral pelvic wall or ovarian fossa, which is separated from it by means of obturator vessels and nerves. Arterial supply, two arteries. Venous drainage, on right side into inferior vena cava, on left side left renal vein. Lymphatic drainage, after passing along with vessels, it drain into pre and para-aortic lymph nodes. Nerve supply, sympathetic from T10, T11, parasympathetic from S2, S3, S4. Pain sensations, these are carried by the sympathetic sympathetic nerves. Structure, these are simple cuboidal epithelium, then tunica albuginea, cortex having different follicles, and medulla, which is having blood vessels and the nerves, and lastly upright. Now, here, first one is determination of the ovulation. Do you know ovulation?
Yes, ma'am.
Ovulation. So, how you will determine the ovulation has occurred or not? There are different tests. First one is premenstrual endometrial biopsy. Premenstrual means before menstruation. Endometrial biopsy is done where the endometrial tissue is taken and studied histologically where secretory phase of endometrium is seen and basal body temperature. Now second test, basal body temperature, that is after ovulation. It is said body temperature rise by 1 degree Fahrenheit and it remains rise temperature, it remains up to the 24 to the 48 hours before the starting of menstruation. This is the second test that ovulation has occurred. Now premenstrual vaginal smear, in which before menstruation vaginal smear is taken where the basophilic cells are large in number. And lastly, Fern test. Fern test, it is the cervical mucus test, where the on drying up this mucus, it gives a structure of a like a tree that is called fern test, and it happens because of estrogen. If estrogen is there, which is secreted by the cells which are lining the follicles, so and progesterone is secreted by corpus luteum. Do you know this? Hello? Is
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes,
made
ma'am.
by the follicular cells. You should know this. Huh? And progesterone by corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is there, that means progesterone is there. So Fern test will be negative. And the estrogen is there, so Fern test will be positive. That means ovulation has not occurred. This is the correlation. That is how you can determine the ovulation. Now second one, prolapse of ovary. That means ovaries are prolapsed, they are not in the ovarian fossa, and usually they prolapse in pouch of Douglas. This is the fold of peritoneum between rectum and uterus. In that fold, these ovaries are prolapsed. Ovarian cyst. That means the different follicles are there. They pass through the different developmental stages. In any arrest in this development, it leads to the formation of ovarian cyst. Second, now next one is carcinoma of ovary. It is common carcinoma which occur in the women. So you should know about the carcinoma of ovary too, and it causes the bulging anteroposterior. Teratoma, that means the ovaries here germ cells are present which are pluripotent. Pluripotent, that means they can give rise to any type of tissue. This type of cells are present in the ovary. So, over a period or as age growth, these pluripotent cells, they can develop either into tooth, hair, bone, cartilage, etc. So these structures, they can be seen in the ovary, and that kind of tumor is called teratoma. Now last one is chocolate cyst. That means there is a concept of endometriosis. Endometrium, that is the inner lining of the uterus. But pathologically, what happens? This endometrium is lying somewhere other than the uterus. So if this endometrial part, if it is there in the ovary, it leads to the abnormal development of the endometrium under the secretion of the hormones. And this condition is called endometriosis. And this endometriosis in ovary leads to the formation of cysts. These are called chocolate cysts. Are these